Greetings, and bienvenue, midnight crew, and you for returning to this broadcast. Tonight we have a collection of tales from an in-real-life story fed from X.
So X, I came here today to tell you about something I just experienced. Be me. 19, just going out for dinner. Go to Burger King for a few things and then grab some shrimp from Long John Silver's. Driving home, everything is fine. Listening to Nightmind break down Marble Hornets for like the 30th time through my aux cord. Notice a car in front of me. Hello there fellow kids. PNG. Notice he's going slower than the speed limit. Go ahead and pass him cause I want to get home and eat. Everything is fine until I reach the street I like to turn onto to get off the highway. He's behind me. Howdy there partner. MP3. Think practically nothing of it. Turn on the road I need to in order to get home. He turns with me. Oh shit. Wow. Start going a bit faster. Eventually get to an intersection and he's still tailing me. See a church. Pull into parking lot. He keeps going straight and goes across the street. Pull out of lot and get on the highway again. He doesn't follow. Go all the way around town to get home. It doesn't seem like much, but I was pretty damn spooked by the whole thing. Anyone else have a similar experience? Or do you have a scary story you like to share? Please leave it below.
I have one that's so fucking weird I can never bring myself to talking about it with anyone, except for my girlfriend, who was there. But /x/ is truly a schizo board, and I'm a wee bit tipsy, so I may as well share it here. Dating a girl with family in Mexico. Veronica. Things are getting serious, so we make plans to visit her grandmother in southern Mexico. Long story short, everything goes well. Grandma doesn't speak English, but I speak a bit of Spanish, and she seems to like me. Before we leave, Veronica wants to pick some mangoes from her uncle's tree. He's got a big piece of land with lots of different fruit trees surrounded by a big forested area. Picking mangoes. MPG. I turn to look at a nearby tree, and there's a young woman standing there watching us. She's wearing kind of unusual, old-timey clothes. She couldn't be family. I met them all at lunch. I ask Veronica who she is and she turns to look. Her eyes go wide. She grabs my hand and pulls me away and starts running. I look back as I run and the woman's face has changed into a horse's face. Brown, long white stripe down the nose, with pale gray eyes like it was blind. Haul us until we get back to her grandma's house where Veronica tells them all what we saw. Everyone seems worried, but Veronica's uncle, Beto, just looks pissed. Beto asks which tree it was and I tell him. He grabs a machete and storms off. Veronica begs him not to go, and their grandmother says something sternly that I don't catch. It's no use, he's hell-bent on going, and we wind up following after him like a bunch of lost kids, not sure what we're about to see. Beto approaches the tree and hacks at the trunk angrily. Even from far away, I can see a bright red liquid spewing from it. The tree is shaking. I mean like, really shaking. There's no way that's just from the force of Beto's blows. Veronica is burying her face in my chest, but I'm just as scared as her. Beto's anger runs out and he walks back towards us. His clothes, face, and arms are covered with what looks like blood. That was kind of it. Everyone just went back to normal, acting like nothing happened. Veronica and I had to leave, so we said our goodbyes and took off. But then, 2 weeks later, Veronica and I are back home at our apartment about to make sweet love when the phone rings. It's Veronica's cousin. Beto drowned. In a shallow creek, not even a foot deep. According to Veronica's cousin, they were all having lunch when Beto walked out to get some fresh air. Grandmother walked out a few minutes later and found Beto lying face down in the creek. She starts screaming and crying. Everyone rushes outside and someone checks Beto's body. They find these thin ligature marks on his wrists, like his hands had been bound tightly. He wasn't gone for more than a few minutes, and he was right outside the house, so they should have heard a struggle if he was attacked. Try and figure that shit out. I sure as hell couldn't.
God damn it. My dad and uncle had a similar story also from Mexico. They told me about a night they were leaving a bar when they young adults, and on the way home there was a girl standing in the middle of the street wearing a white dirty dress with her back turned to them. They called out and asked her if she was okay and she didn't respond, so my uncle approached while my dad stood back, and when my uncle got to her front, screamed bloody murder and him, and my dad took off running and just heard the galloping of hooves on the pavement behind them. When they got home and settled down, my uncle said the girl at the head of a horse.
So no, this one probably isn't all that spooky, and I could tell the paranormal bits in just a few lines, but maybe you'll bear with me. This is an event that meant a lot to me, and I want to share it. Grow up in a small house in the suburbs. It's me, my baby sister Katie, and my parents. I love spending time with my baby sister. She's 4 years younger than me and basically a little sponge, so I spend a lot of time teaching her about all of the shit I think is cool. She thinks I'm a superhero basically. Happy family photo.png. When I'm 12, Katie dies. I don't want to go into too much detail here because it's a bad memory, but basically it was a hit and run on our street. I take it badly. My school grades plummet, my interest in hanging out with friends goes out the window. I just can't fathom it. Why would God allow that to happen to a sweet little girl like Katie? Why would He allow it to happen to me? My faith in God dries up. By the time I was 16, I was a certified fedora-wearing atheist, even bought a Richard Dawkins poster for my room. I know, cringe. Fast forward, I'm 20 years old. Drop out of college and move out of my parents' house. Get a job at a restaurant where I make decent tips and can afford to live alone in the city. Doing pretty good, but the bitterness never leaves me. Every year on the anniversary of her death, her smiling face pops into my head. By that point I had stopped visiting her grave. It was just too hard, but I always spent the day thinking about her. She was a brave kid, full of energy. My parents were happy to have me around to help look after her. She was a real handful. It was my job to keep her safe. It's my fault she died. Every year I relived that same feeling. Fast forward a couple of years. I'm a trainer at the restaurant where I work. I get tasked with training a new guy named Walt. He's a young black kid from Mississippi, real thin, small, and soft-spoken. I think he's too shy to be a server here, but I train him as best I can. But his first night was a total disaster, and after one weekend management canned him. After I get off work I find him just sitting in his car, crying. Long story short, I invite him out for a burger and we get to talking. He tells me all about his situation. How he's been living with his alcoholic mother and her dickhead boyfriend. How her boyfriend convinced his mom to kick Walt out. How he's been bouncing from job to job for about a year struggling to get by, eating maybe once a day at most. Shit, I could go on, but the point is that his story really tugs at my conscience. I don't feel right just going back to my own bullshit little life after that. I invite him to crash at my place until he gets on his feet, and after a lot of hesitation, he finally agrees. Fast forward again. It's about 3 months later and Walt and I are best buds. We both like movies and good food. I discovered that Walt was a great cook. He even used to set up all his ingredients in little bowls on the kitchen counter. Mise en place, or whatever. He'd arrange the bowls in a circle for good luck, he'd say. I convinced him to find a kitchen job and he did. He's been working at a nearby BBQ place for a while and is saving every cent, trying to find a place of his own. He finally finds something. I go with him to check it out. It's affordable, but kind of a lousy little place in a sketch neighborhood. But I've learned that Walt's a proud guy, and to him it's better than leeching off me. He's set to move in next month. One night, before his move, we're casually watching some movie that's on TV and shooting the shit. Walt brings up how when he was a kid he had an older brother who was murdered. This was back in Jackson, Mississippi, which he said was really segregated and still pretty racist. His brother was attacked one night by some white dudes and they killed him. His mom never got over it and started drinking heavily. Everything fell apart from there. Walt was just 10 years old when this happened. He felt like he always had to look out for himself from then on out. His mom treated him like shit, her boyfriends all treated him like shit, the other kids in his neighborhood weren't any better. They called him a hussy and a friend because he was smaller than everyone else. He used to get pummeled a lot. He pauses as he's telling me this, getting choked up. This is the first time in his life that he's felt like anyone gave a shit about him, he tells me, and he wants to thank me for everything. I tell him it's no big deal and that it felt good to be able to help him. That night I'm lying in bed and it hits me. Walt's childhood and mine are total opposites. Walt felt like it was him against the world, that nobody would ever be there for him. I always felt like I let everyone down, that my job was to protect my sister and I failed. I think about this as I go to sleep. The next day, Walt moves out. Just a couple of months later, Walt's life is looking up. He's managed to fix up his piece of shit car, he's dating some cute waitress who works over at the barbecue place, and his skills in the kitchen have not gone unnoticed. Pretty soon I'll be in charge of that thing, he told me with a big smile on his face. I congratulate him. He was standing in my doorway, looking happier than I'd ever seen him. That was the last time I saw him. Sorry for the length. I meant to avoid unnecessary details, but I got kinda caught up in it. I'll try to keep it brief from here on out. I find out the next day that Walt was killed. Hit and run. The words fucking echo in my head. I'm devastated. I supported Walt as much as I could, but there's a little voice in my head that wants to say it's all your fault. But it's not. There's nothing more I could have done. I recognize for the first time my sister's death wasn't my fault either. We were both just kids, I couldn't have known any better. I didn't see the car coming, I didn't think she'd run into the street, I didn't know what would happen. Scenes of my little sister run through my mind. This time they don't hurt so bad. I said that was the last time I saw Walt, but that's not exactly true. Again, trying to keep it brief here. Walt's funeral comes and goes. A pastor delivers the eulogy, and I think about God for the first time in a long while. It's not fair that life is so pointless, that Walt just has to rot in the dirt after suffering so much, that I have to lose people I care about. It's not fair. A week later I have a dream. Walt's sitting under a large tree. I tell him I miss him and he says, "Why?" I'm right here. The next morning, I decide to visit Walt's grave and talk to him for a little while. I leave some items I think he'd like, put them all in a little bag the size of your fist and laid it right there on his grave. In the distance I notice a large tree that looks like the one from my dream and I walk over. Not sure what I was expecting. It's not like Walt's going to pop in out of nowhere and say hello. It's not like he can hear me. But still I say, "I miss you, man." Instantly I feel a strange peace and a weird sensation. I can't explain it, just felt like a really intense form of goosebumps, only pleasant. I walk back towards the cemetery gates. The strange goosebump sensation hasn't gone away, and I look over at Walt's grave as I pass it. I stop. The bag of items is open and everything spread out over the grave. They are arranged in a circle. Mise en place. For good luck, I think. This is going to sound silly, but at that moment a beam of sunlight suddenly streamed down onto the grave. I remember Walt saying in my dream, "I'm right here," and I can't explain it, but I can feel his presence. I'm kind of crying at this point. I tell Walt that I'm glad he's okay. I'm glad he's in a better place. I miss my friend. I miss my sister. But I'm starting to think there's more to life than we think. You can call it coincidence. You can say it's all in my mind. You can say that life is brief and when we die, we're gone forever. But I'm sorry. I just don't believe it.
College freshman. Falling asleep. Sleep paralysis hits. Can't move. Hear whispers but can't make out any words. Sometimes see shadowy tendrils. It happens frequently. Once every week or two. One time it happened 3 times in one night. Get used to it. Not so scary anymore. Figure out I can snap out a bit faster by moving my fingers and toes. Happens less often, once every month or two. One night get weird dream. Be in theater with random girl. Seem to be having a good time. Looking for seats. Everyone is wearing creepy monster costumes wearing cloaks. They aren't costumes. One jumps at girl and kills her. Wake up. Sleep paralysis. Shadow goblin thing sitting on my chest. Can't understand him with his static noise voice. Know he's mocking me. Tired of this shit. Takes me a while but finally managed to do it. One punch.mp3. Everything faded away. Haven't had sleep paralysis since.
I have one. I live in middle of fuck nowhere, Mexico. Here we have a semi-famous Nahua Bruya called Teresita. Supposedly she looks like an old lady with really white hair. But she is famous for showing up in her animal shape, a big white owl, when people are out really late. I did not believe it, but then this happened. Around 15 years ago. Drinking out with friends. Really late, 2-3 a.m. Just some beers, not even tipsy. There's this empty lot just next to us. Big tree on it. Tree branches suddenly rattle. I was looking at it, nothing noticeable that caused the rattling. We are silent for a couple of minutes. Probably a cat, whatever. Forget about it. 10 minutes later. Tree rattles again. This time I see something white come out flying. Big owl, never saw one before. Thing is flying away diagonally to us. Something's not right. It hits me. It is flying in slow motion, wing flapping really slowly, not enough to keep it up. Think I might be seeing things. Look at friend. We are all looking at the thing. That is not an owl, is it? One of my friends asks. No response, we are just looking at the thing. It just goes away after several minutes. Decide to go home. After that we talked about it. One of my friends swears it had human eyes, but I don't think it was possible to see the eyes because the distance and lights. Anyway, I had a couple more experiences on my night walks. I'll post them later if thread is up.
As I was reading through this thread, I was reminded of the times that I waited tables. Not scary so much as creepy. Working my way through school. Big chain restaurant. Most of us there are the same age range, 18 to 20. There's a dishwasher we all call Liz. Can't remember why we called her that, but it wasn't her real name. I want to say she was from Peru, and she hardly spoke a word of English. She was really pretty. One of the servers who knew her said she was underage, so it was ultra illegal for her to be working there. Nobody cares. Such is life in the restaurant industry. Anyway, we have this shit manager named Eric. One day I walk into his office after everyone leaves, and I see him grabbing money out of the safe and holding his wallet. He looks at me. I look at him. We both know what's happening, but I just tell him I'm clocking out, good night. Feel strange, wondering if I should tell someone what I saw. I don't need to. He gets fired for stealing soon after, still not sure who ultimately ratted him out. New manager steps in, a guy named Mike. Polite older guy. Looks like Milton from Office Space. Seems pretty cool, very relaxed, not as strict as Eric was. A month goes by. One night I'm closing. I was a shift lead. Usually this takes a while, and I'm not out of there till around 1:00. Most everyone's gone, except for me and Liz. I'm ready to leave and Milton tells me to go on ahead. He's got to double check the dish area after Liz is done. I'm pulling out of the restaurant when I realize I don't have my phone. Park quickly and run inside, the back was still unlocked. Rushing through the kitchen towards the break room, when I pass the dish area and freeze. Milton has got Liz bent over the sink, and is going to town on her. He sees me and instantly jumps and turns his back to me, putting his junk away. Liz looks at me with tears in her eyes, and pulls up her underwear, clearly ashamed. Milton begs me not to tell anyone. He promises to pay me, says he'll do anything. There were no cameras in the dish area, so I knew if I didn't say something nobody would find out. Liz is standing there against the sink with her back to me, clearly sobbing. I go grab my phone and call the cops. Before they arrive, Milton rushes out the door and speeds off. Kills himself when he gets home. He leaves behind a wife and kids. One of those kids was with Liz. He'd been fudging her for weeks. Told her he'd fire her if she said anything. Made me sick to my stomach. Liz was such a sweet girl. Someone told me she was only 16 when it happened. Now she's raising some bastard's kid all by herself. I said it before. Such is life in the service industry.
There's a lot of strange stories that my family usually told me. They are from the state of Hidalgo in Mexico. This is one that happened to one of my aunts. She goes, like usual, to the local market. While shopping the foods, a very old lady approaches her. She asks my aunt if she wants to buy her some garlic. My aunt tells her she doesn't want to buy but thank her. Later, in my uncle's house, my aunt is alone and through the window, she saw the old lady that offered her the garlic. My aunt goes and asks her what she wants. The old lady tells her, "What a beautiful daughter you had." Yes, my aunt has a daughter, but she was at school. And she had never seen the old lady until earlier in the market. My aunt answered that she hadn't had a daughter and told the old lady to leave. My aunt was very concerned of what happened, so that afternoon she picked up my cousin from school. The night arrived, and while the family were asleep, a heavy strike was suddenly heard in the roof. My aunt woke up and ran to my cousin's room and hugged her with strong. They were hearing a turkey that kept walking in the roof. They just started praying and later the turkey was gone. At the next day my uncle said he didn't hear anything. And they never saw the old lady again. It was said that the old lady was a witch. Witch stories in this state of Mexico are very common, and is common too that men kept asleep while the witch visited a family home. Here's one of many, as promised. Land shark.
Something that happened to me when I was around 10 to 12 in family holidays in Sicily. Just to start off with some context, I'm originally from Switzerland, but the family of my father are from Sicily. Back then, around 20 years ago, we used to go every 2 years to visit the family in the south of Sicily. As a kid, this place was fucking weird compared to Switzerland. My grandparents were ultra-Catholics with Jesus painting all over the house, but somehow my grandmother was also into esoteric stuff, like some grandma healing tricks that makes no sense, strange meaning sentences, believing in ghosts. My grandparents had a big house and all of the neighbors were from the same huge family. On every outside walls people were putting big gates and electronic security devices and defense dogs. Also in the concrete of the walls there was shattered glass molded in the concrete to cut you if you were climbing. All of this was unrelated to paranormal, lots of criminals back then, but it inspired a feel of menace when I was there. Sicily. Walking at night with my grandfather after some fun at an amusement park. It's very late for me, but in the south people go to bed late and wake up late to avoid the heat. Me and Grandpa are trying to meet my father who was dancing in a bar nearby. We have to cross some deserted neighbors to get there. I'm holding the hands of Grandpa and I feel very happy and relaxed. Grandpa started walking fast and pulling me for no apparent reasons. I'm complaining. Doesn't care and continue walking even faster. I'm getting scared. I look around and see nothing special, just empty streets. Suddenly I see what I would describe as monks with hoods walking in a small street between two houses. I look at them with a lot of curiosity, thinking they were preparing for a cult or a spectacle. Grandpa now walks at normal speed again. I try to ask him about them. Don't respond and look right in front of him like he saw nothing. We arrive at the crossing of the street. I see some orange light from the street. For 3 seconds I see 5 to 6 men in hoods holding torches and standing in line in silence. WTF. Grandpa still doesn't respond. We arrive close to the bar. We still have to wait for my father to come outside. Grandpa now is acting normal and talking at me. I ask him who were these monks. He plays dumb. Ask again. Awkwardly pretend he doesn't know French enough to understand what I say. I know he's lying. Then I got very spooked. I have no clue what it was about. I know there was some weird cultural rituals, but I've never heard of anything like that. May it be mafia related to scare my grandpa like this?
I have two. Be 12, live with single mom in a home built in 1932. Come home one day at 6:30 p.m. from school. Walking down hallway that leads to 3 bedrooms, mom's room is the last room to the right. For some reason did not decide to turn on the hallway light. Halfway through the hall, I hear the sound of metal twisting followed by the pitch of water suddenly hitting. My heart immediately sank to my stomach and the hairs rose on my body. I ran. Mom and I approached the sound with a kitchen knife. Coming from mom's bathroom. Slowly approach and open the door. Dark bathroom, hot steam.jpg. Can't see anything, light is off. Turn off light and see nothing, no one is there. Mom walks up and turns the shower handle. Mom calls plumber to come over, thinking it is maybe a water issue, perhaps pressure. Plumber tells us it impossible that the handle needs to be physically turned. Never found out what was in that bathroom. Second story, no Greentext. My mom got divorced when I was very young. At first we lived in a very small apartment. When I was about 2 to 3 years old, I used to randomly tell my mom that the baby is in the room with me. I would giggle and point at it, but what really creeped my mom out was I would say stuff that made it sound like he was trying to hide. For example, "Look, Mom. The baby is crawling under the ouch. Haha, the baby crawled under the covers with you, do you see him? The baby won't come out of your closet."
Okay, I got a spooky story. I am from Brazil, so don't expect perfect English. Be me 19. Going for a night drive with my Pajero 97. Live in this shit beach called Praia do Quintao for 16 years. Feels comfy anyway. Grab my phone and auxiliary cord, creep Radiohead for max comfy. Keep driving. I enter a dark road. Put my truck in neutral to slow down. Holes on the street everywhere. Suddenly my RPM drop. Engine stops. Got out kinda weird feeling. Open the hood, check battery and shit, everything is fine. Try to turn on my truck, nothing. Look in my side mirror, looked like a girl in white dress, can't see face completely. Shit my pants.png. Try to turn on my truck multiple times. Almost killing the engine starter. Look in my side mirror again, that same girl start to get closer. Truck starts. Full speed, turn on the first corner I found. Got back on the main road and back home. Told my friend what happened, he didn't believe me. Next night tried to came back on the same road I found. Didn't found the same road, only similar ones. Still don't know exactly what happened.
I've told this before here a few times over the years, so any anons that recognize it give me a reply since no one has ever said anything. Be at Grandma's house, like I was nearly every weekend. Probably about 10 YRS old. Be on the top floor of the house, in my bedroom. Decide to go downstairs and get some grapes. Walk past bathroom on the left, see Casey, her golden retriever laying on the cold tile floor, cooling off/napping like dogs do. Walk down 5 stairs, turn right, past master bedroom and trust bedroom. Walk down about 12 stairs, a whole flight, big 2.5-story house with 2 basements. Looking straight, Grandma is already washing grapes for me. Casey is begging for food, obviously can't have grapes, and she's talking to him like, "These will kill you." Realize I just saw Casey upstairs in the bathroom. Practically shit myself, tell Grandma. Bring her upstairs with me to show her, make sure the dog doesn't come with because I'm scared of him at that moment. Empty bathroom.png. Had weird vibes about that dog from then on until he was put down for hip dysplasia 10 YRS later. That house was the only place I ever saw or felt weird shit. I don't really have any other specific stories though. The lower basement though. Oh boy, I didn't like being down there alone. Toys would turn on by themselves down there and nowhere else. Pretty sure Thomas the Tank Engine made me literally shit myself one time, when I was playing with the Brio set. The massive projector TV also liked to turn off all the time. I'd jump and be staring at myself in the reflection of me on an empty couch. Just sitting there, listening to basement noises, the disc spinning in the PlayStation. Electrical interference of some kind.
When I was young, I'd say 8-11ish, my sister, whom is 7 years older, would babysit me when my parents were out. At the time, she smoked a lot and my parents made her smoke outside, of course. So I'd follow her outside into the carport, which faced the street, and play around, annoy her and such. One day my sister notices a car at the end of the driveway, just sitting in the road. It's a white SUV, I believe a mid-90s Bravado, not sure, with a bike rack on top. It has the most tinted windows I have ever seen, you could not see inside from the side. It sat there until she went inside, then would drive to the end of the road and sit at the church parking lot and wait. Wait until she'd come out again for another smoke. And it would repeat this. Odd, but my sister is a brave lady and just kind of ignored it. That is until the next day while my parents were out again and it showed up again. It would sit at the end of the driveway. And just watch. I don't know what the driver was doing. But he was watching my sister. If I didn't go out, I'd watch from the front window and it would just sit there and watch my sister. She told my father, who was a sheriff deputy at the time, and he called the cops, made a complaint. They showed up, looked around, but the SUV was nowhere to be seen. Months went by and nothing. Then one day, a good 9 months after this had all started and for since the last sighting, it was back. It became a regular occurrence. Another day, my sister was outside doing her nasty habit, and sure enough, here it comes. This time we were alone as usual, and she decides she's had enough. She tells me to stay in the carport, and she's going to go confront them. She starts walking toward the SUV. And halfway down the driveway she would later remark to us, "I felt utter terror, like I knew if I went any further, I was dead. I was paralyzed by pure fear." She turned around and went inside. Finally, the family car was in the shop for some kind of issue, so we were all stuck home for a night and had to get delivery, etc. While my parents are home, my sister goes outside to smoke. I go outside with her, and eventually the SUV shows up. She tells me to run inside and tell my father, and I do. My dad promptly gets his gun and starts briskly walking down the driveway with it in hand in the direction of the SUV, but not level towards it. The SUV floored it, down the road and peeled out onto the nearby large highway. My dad, being a cop, noted the year and model and distinguishing features. The scariest thing. The license plate had been covered in duct tape. We never saw it again.
I work at a resort and I saw my first ghost in the pavilion I was working at the other night, twice. First sighting was as I was walking out of the kitchen, right, carrying some bottles of wine to pack up. As I'm walking towards the bar I see the silhouette of someone walking towards me in the back of the photo on the footpath. I heard the crunch of gravel. I thought nothing of it, a guest wanting a nightcap. It was late at night, so I went to set the wine down on the bar and you guessed it, I turned around to dead silence and no one there. Second sighting was much worse. About half an hour later I was all finished turning down and I had just turned off all the lights other than the fireplace light, very dark in the pavilion. I was using my phone flashlight and was walking over to the bar to grab my keys to leave. As I turned around towards the bikes, directly behind where I was standing, the light glimmered around them like they had reflective panels all over them. They don't, and I saw what I can only describe as a white face behind them looking up at me from about knee-high. I jumped so bad I dropped my beverage. It was gone in the blink of an eye, but I practically ran to my car. What did I see, bros? The resort was built on native land for what it's worth.
Be a non-teacher living in a ghetto town. My life teachers are highest paid people here. For the past month I listened as co-workers had their house broke into and shit stolen. The day before a car was taken in broad daylight, and a woman had a person enter her house while she was still there. She ran to the neighbors and called the police. Police never showed and the person left taking her and her husband's clothes. This night I finished smoking a cigarette with a friend and decide to call it a night around 1 a.m. Turn off lights and push furniture in front of door. Habit due to paranoia. Lock bedroom door, due to paranoia. Still can't sleep, so I just stare at ceiling regretting life choices, when I see a shadow pass by the window. Quietly, because shitty walls means they might actually hear me walk around, walk to the window. Peek out and see nothing, but notice the weeds near my house are disturbed. I go back to bed, and just lie awake. I feel a shifting below me. The floors are thin, and I can feel the slight bulge as something moves below me. Filled with adrenaline, I leap out of bed and jump where I feel the movement. Something shouts and cusses, then shimmies back out from my house. I tell co-workers about this, and the housing maintenance crew tell me they can't do much. A few months go by and a co-worker asks if I can help weed her yard since I was weeding my yard to move out. She's handicapped, and I like weeding, so I agree. She actually doesn't live at her place on weekends, since she has her own place with her children a few hours away. She only stays here for work on weekdays. I start weeding and notice there's a gaping hole by her porch. You can't see it unless you bend to look, and she wouldn't do that considering her disability. Passing vehicles wouldn't see that because of angle of the porch to the street. Hole has trash piled outside it, and looks big enough for someone to crawl in. I call the security and maintenance about it. I leave before the week is up and security parked near her house. No one wants to check in the hole. Supposedly they finally filled the hole over the summer.
Be me. 2015, 24 years old. Living in northern part of ND. Friend tells me about an old abandoned tuberculosis hospital about 45 minutes away. Says it's supposed to be haunted. Found a book at Barnes and Noble's of the most haunted places in ND. TB Hospital is in it. Credibility.jpg. Friend wants to get a group together to explore it. I'm a skeptic, so I'm down. We get a group of friends / co-workers together to hunt ghosts. Maybe 10 of us in total. We download walkie-talkie apps on our phone so we can all communicate if we split up. Everyone has username / profile, and we make our own channel. Only one rule for the adventure, and no fuckery. No one try to mess around, scare each other or make it seem like something is going on when it's not. Everyone agrees. The night of the adventure arrives. We load up in 3 separate vehicles to go there. Youngest friend brought a chick and her friend he met on Tinder or something with him. It's whatever. We arrive at our destination. Dirt road off a highway leading to a gate. Easy to go around the gate on foot, but have to leave the cars on the dirt road. We are meet up in the front of the hospital. Standard old abandoned building, nothing extra creepy. We all basically just have our phones and flashlights. Oddest friend has GoPro strapped to his chest. We do a quick function check of the walkie-talkies. Reception is good in the area. Voice quality of the app is just okay, but it was like that even when we first downloaded it. Begin exploring. Mainly stick as a group, sometimes splitting up a bit, but no one is ever alone. Using walkie-talkie app to communicate and bullshit. Yep, it's an old building. WEBM. Everyone meets up and goes down to a basement type area. Oddest friend decides this is a good place to communicate with the dead. We all gather around in total darkness as oddest friend asks standard questions. Is anyone here? Can you make yourself known? Are you at peace? Standard stuff. During the questioning, black friend freaks out. Swears something touched his neck. He's no to be dramatic, so we all just ignore him. Exit underground area and explore the upper floors now. Split into maybe 3 or 4 small groups. Random female voice comes over the app. Hey. I'm happy you all are with us. Black friend responds on the app. Who the fuck is that? The voice responds, I'm your friend silly. We all start to try meet back up to figure out who's fucking around. Me and friend find young friend and girls first. Accusation go towards the random girls, but young friend swears it was not them. Oddest friend, who is somewhere else, takes charge, asks who she is. No response. Asks if she died here. She responds, I didn't die here, but I saw some pretty bad stuff happen here, in an almost playful tone. No one recognizes the voice. The voice sounds friendly. Sounds like a young woman. Late teens, early 20s. Whenever any of us talked using the walkie-talkie app, even at my friend's house, before we left, the quality was just okay, and there was always slight background noise / static. But her voice was crystal fucking clear. The voice says, I hope you guys are having fun here. We finally all regroup and hold a council meeting, outraged that our no fuckery rule had been broken, but everyone denies having any part. Someone finally checks the walkie-talkie app and notices the username of the voice. Living Deadgirl 1. Groans and eye rolls all around. Annoyed but dismiss it as someone breaking the rule. Decide to continue exploring. The part we were in was just the admin part of the hospital. The hospital part of the hospital is about a 2-minute walk down a small path through some trees. Start heading to hospital. Pick related is hospital found on Google. Somehow get split into 2 groups. I am in the front group with young friend and the 2 girls and another friend. Voice again. Where are you going? Let's play. Oddest replies, where are you? Living Deadgirl 1 says, I'm right behind you, but the end of the transmission ends a bit abruptly. Back group comes up to us and starts throwing accusations at us. I can defend that it wasn't the girls. We start speculating that someone has their wife at home fucking with us. But no proof and no one fesses up, so we just carry on. Spend the next hour or 2 exploring. Some attempts were made to contact Living Deadgirl 1, but she never responded. Nothing else of note happens. Meet back up at the cars to leave. Throw some last accusations around about Living Deadgirl 1, but still no one confesses. We load up in the cars, and as we start pulling away, we get one last message from Living Deadgirl 1. Thanks for coming. I hope you all had a good time. You can come back anytime. black friend on app, how the fuck you know we was leaving? This kind of freaked us all out. My friend from another car calls me. I am in car with females and once again vouch for them, and say that I didn't see either one of them use their phones to text someone to say we were leaving. Friend says no one in his car was on their phone either. We meet up back at friend's house. Try to get someone to just admit that they were fucking around. To this day, everyone swears it was not them. A smaller group of us went back there a couple of weeks later, but nothing at all happened. We didn't have the girls with us, so some of my friends were convinced it was them, but having been with them most of the time, I'm pretty sure it wasn't. I am still 99% sure it was some elaborate fuckery, but it's the closest thing to something paranormal happening to me in my life.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel, as more Greentext will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.